Welcome to a special edition of the DC TV Report. We have a DC movie report for SHAZAM. I'm Edward O'Hare, nickname to be determined.
I'm Sara Netzley, academic by day, freelance writer by night.
Yes.
And I'm Bill, just a guy in the room.
We are joined by our esteemed executive producer, Bill Sweeney of the Wicked Theory podcast. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thanks for having me, Ed. I couldn't be more excited or elated that you let me come on another episode.
I mean, it was a close vote, honestly, between me and Ed.
Well, I'm just glad you guys didn't split on it.
Well, it's, this is a movie I've been waiting to see for a very, very long time. And I know I might not be as objective. And and also, Bill and I saw this movie together, and I think the listeners may be eager to hear what that experience was like, of him being in the same room with me as I'm seeing the movie for the first time.
I should have sat further away. I didn't know you were going to do all that in public. But we'll get to it.
Yes, we will get to it. And so today we're talking about SHAZAM, directed by David F. Sandberg, starring Zachary Levi, Mark Strong, and Asher Angel, and Jack Dylan Grazer. This was a fun movie. Am I right? Am I right, guys?
Yes. This was a fun movie. Well, you can put your superhero movies into a couple different buckets. You've got the big action, you've got the super serious, you've got the fun. This is definitely in the fun bucket.
Yes.
Yeah, this is that seems to be the one besides, spandex. It was the one other thing they really wanted to make sure that they landed. It's just fun all around. It's funny when it's supposed to be funny, and it's just fun in that general, let's have a good time, action adventure kind of fun. Like 80s style, kind of like not too aggressive, like wholesome, almost wholesome.
I would say it's wholesome and definite emotions. It landed some emotional punches for me. So you've got fun, but you've also got a slightly deeper undercurrent about family and belonging and accepting and whatnot. Also, it was a little more violent / scary than I expected. I'm not saying this is not on a scale of all the scary things in the world. Just for a fun kind of family friendly thing, it was a little more like, oh, those people are really well. This isn't the spoiler section, but So I don't know. Was the violent scare level what you were both expecting?
It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised. I do know what you're referring to. There are a couple of scary moments that I've seen people talking about online. But to me, it's the same kind of scary stuff you would have seen in an 80s kids movie or an 80s movie like Goonies. To me, there's a moment where you see some monsters that remind me a lot of Ghostbusters. And to me, it's that kind of scary that may be a little tense, and extreme for little kids. But to me, that gives the story the weight it needs.
Like an Indiana Jones style death where it's memorable, and if you're little, it's going to stick with you, but it's not going to scar you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and even right, so there's no gore offhand, and even like the scary monsters, like they can get intense, like when they get up close, you know what I mean? But they don't really, we'll get into it, but they don't really do anything that's too, like malicious in a way that like, outside of like maybe one or two things, like I don't think it gets to the point where like it's nightmare inducing,
Yeah. I don't know why I started this off with the family friendly hour. Like we have a bunch of parents of young children listening. Like, should I take my child? I don't know why. I just turned this into the Parents Television Council, but
well, it's funny because like that is the one knock I've seen on this movie online. That is the one.
I think the thing for that might be that it's such a light feeling movie for the most part, and the creature design might be a little closer to what you expect maybe in a horror movie. That to have them kind of do the head whip right to the camera, and it's just really kind of intense looking demons. But they so maybe the levels for some people aren't quite matching up. Like, oh, I expected monsters, but like that looks something out of like a horror movie almost. Not so much like a superhero gods and monsters kind of thing, you know. So maybe it was that.
But again, it was delightful.
Yeah.
Please, everyone listening, it was so much fun.
No, I said it too. I said it the other day to somebody else where it's you know, if we're doing like overall thoughts here still too, it's you know, I think it's like the best DC movie like all around. For you can make what arguments you want about this best DC movie overall. I feel like for what they set out to do, landed, and at the same time was like being completely faithful to what I knew of the the property, like, you know what I mean, of the characters. So like to me, that means like when I walked out, I didn't have any head scratchers. I didn't have any like little bones to pick, any nitpicks or anything that was like, yeah, but what about this? I had maybe one thing that maybe I have like a point to make, but like it's for that, I feel like that's why I say it's the quote unquote best, like best in that sense. Like we can argue about whether it's better than Wonder Woman or not, or something else that we consider top tier for DC. But for me, like, all around, it just felt like coming out of it like, you know, I had nothing but a good time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I would definitely say this is probably the most faithful comic book adaptation of a DC property. You know, definitely since Dark Knight, maybe since the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Like in terms of like what's on the page compared to what ends up on the screen, it's pretty much straight out of Jeff Johns' New 52 reboot.
But what about Green Lantern, Ed? How can you say that?
You can cut his mic, right?
He'll have to do it in the edit. You'll have to sit through it for now.
Yeah. All right. So we're like 7 or 8 minutes in. Any other non-spoilers that we want to go to before we dig into the meaty stuff?
Well, if I could, I think I mean, this is Zach's film. I'm calling him Zach because I feel like we're friends. But he makes this movie. You know, there is, without him and that energy and that charisma and the charm and the humor, this is a fine movie. But he elevates it to just a joy every time he's on scene. So when you're looking at the performances, that is not a spoiler to say Zach for president, because
I'll back you up on that, because I'll say this: I was one of like the kind of like maybe not a full on naysayer, because I've learned to give things somewhat of a chance, but my initial reactions to the casting were like, him really? Like I get like, you know, that he's funny, and like I don't know, like I didn't picture his physicality to what it ended up being, because, you know, since getting it, like he really went to the gym a lot, and the suit's a little filling him up, but like I was questioning it, you know, and this washed all that away right away. Like I can't imagine, really, it's hard to imagine who else could have done what he did here and really kind of sold me on that energy, that boyishness. That's not like completely gosh golly gee whiz little kid. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like he zeroed in on it, whether that's him hanging out with those kids and picking up on them, what they do a lot or whatever. He nailed it. I think he nailed it.
That's funny, because his casting was the first thing that made me interested in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Sure, so I can see that too.
You know.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like, oh, yeah, because it's definitely one of those things for me too, where it's like, I might have been leaning to well, how are they going to do that? But it definitely makes you ask, well, how are they going to do that? You know, how's that going to look? Yeah. Oh, it's curious.
He's not the obvious choice, but the second I heard he was cast, and, you know, that he was going to bulk up, I thought, oh, that's the perfect tone for that character. To me, that confirmed to me that that they were going to do this in the direction of fun, and that they weren't going to, you know, make this grim and gritty, like the other DC movies.
Like, I think like the only other person that I kind of like was kicked around or people talked about as a dream casting, or maybe they talked to him, was like John Cena. And like I get that, and I could kind of maybe picture his energy brought in there too, and it could pull off something pretty good. But I don't know if he's got the all around package really to kind of pull it off.
I'm sorry, we're not on video anymore, so you can't see my face trying to grapple with John Cena.
I mean, it would have been I'm just saying, it definitely would have been a different movie.
He's funny. No, wow, that's a different movie. Wow.
It is. It definitely is. But it was the only other name that I heard that made any remote sense. You know what I mean? And I'm glad they went this way, though. I will agree and say this was just better choice.
Yeah. Yes. And also, just quickly in terms of performances, I thought Asher Angel, who played Billy Batson, and Jack Dylan Grazer, who played Freddie, had great chemistry together. I love Jack Dylan Grazer as this, manic nerd. I identified with that character a lot over the course of the movie. And also I thought Mark Strong was. I was afraid with Dr. Savannah that they wouldn't find a way that he's a character I can easily see being very two-dimensional. And they found a way to give that character depth which is something I was so surprised, and I never thought they'd be able to pull off correctly, but I think they did a great job with that.
I thought that character was such a wonderful contrast to SHAZAM himself, because he's so childlike and so innocent and just astounded, and Mark Strong is a grown-ass man. and it just, that contrast between their demeanor and their approach, how great. And I was so glad he wasn't CGI. That has been my complaint, like with Justice League. Your big monster CGI, great. We had a ton of CGI monsters here, but the human face, putting that there, I think made me kind of, it grounded it a little more for me, even as they were flying and slamming into buildings and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll break off with that a little bit on Mark Strong. I'll say, look, it was really good. It's truly, I don't want to call it serviceable because that's a little dismissive, but I don't feel like he brought anything too much that felt like couldn't have been somebody else, but I loved him in it. He was definitely like, oh my God, this guy should be crazy villains like this more often. Maybe I'm a little less familiar with some of his recent stuff or something. I hear titters in the background, like someone is dying to say something.
Well, no, it's just because, like, if you look at Mark Strong's work, that's pretty much all he does is bad guys.
Co-signed.
Well, then keep it up. Well, then they got the right guy.
Sherlock Holmes, Kick-Ass, Green Lantern.
I will say Kingsman, he's a good guy, so that might be what Bill is thinking of.
That's true.
That is kind of like the wheelhouse. Like I have him in a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay, Bill, let me run this past you. What if the villain had been played by John Cena?
Well, now we've got a match for physicality. I think. No. Well, here's the thing. In John Cena's movie, the Mark Strong part is played by Vince McMahon. So that's where that movie gets real different in the alternate DC universe where that movie takes place.
Billy. Sorry, I turned into Robert Loggia for a second.
You're fired.
Sorry, I turned into Robert Loggia for a second.
Yeah. Billy. But that's But so I'm not going to undersell what he did, by any means, because it's not like at any point I was like, I'm not like sitting there in a theater thinking this guy could bring more or anything like that. I just kind of felt like coming out of it, hey, he was good, he was great. Like I think he might have, for me, just because like he's doing that kind of thing, that the amount of personality that everybody else gets to bring might have overshadowed for me a little bit. Maybe that's the thing. I'm not sure. Okay. But but I liked everybody in it. Everybody was good. Even the parents, the foster parents at the home. I forget his name, but the guy who plays the dad there, I know him from Walking Dead, and it was nice to see him do something a little else. Like, I wasn't expecting to see him pop up. I like that guy.
Yes.
So and the best friend, the motor mouth, Freddy. I thought he was genuinely funny. I really can't wait to see him in something else too, and see him do more work as he gets older and kind of grows into doing comedic kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm. I also think that dog from that one scene should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor or Actress. That was good dog acting.
Hey, spoilers.
Is it time?
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone listening, if you have not seen the movie, please go flock to a theater immediately, and then come back and listen to it. So I'm gonna put in the time code that this is the moment where spoilers begin.
Wait, do we invoke the spoilers by shouting Shazam?
Shazam! Sure.
Well, I think we should just all yell spoilers then, really. Spoilers!
Spoilers. Okay. Let's do the spoiler. Okay, let's start at the end.
I can't believe they killed Shazam. No.
That was crazy. What a twist.
Let's start with the end credits tag, which was cute, but nothing special, I thought.
The very end, the second tag, as it were, is the one you're talking about, right? The little wink to the camera.
Yeah. Where Billy and Freddy are trying to see if he can commune with a goldfish. Sarah, did you see this part?
I did.
Yes.
I don't leave theaters until the lights come up for any superhero movie. I've learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was cute. To me, the fact that joke doesn't land as great as it could is okay, because it finally gave DC a reason to do Marvel's format, and I don't understand why every movie doesn't have a mid-credit and a post-credit tag. I think this is something every franchise movie should be doing from now on.
I think especially if movies are going to do the thing where we don't have like a real open credit sequence, but we have that big, blustery, cool credit sequence that should have been at the front, but is now on the back. Like, you know what I mean? Like where Marvel uses that as a place to put their first tag. Like, that's the thing that's been happening, where it's like, oh, the movie's over, and this ultra produced credit sequence, for the first big bulk of names comes up, and it's animated, or it's got some kind of really slick design going on. Right there, that's, if you're going to bother doing that, you might as well, like if you're trying to do that so people sit through it, because why else would you do it?
Definitely.
Well, I didn't mean to put you to sleep. I'm sorry.
No, tell us more about the credits.
Credits, if it wasn't for Blast, I don't know where we would be these days.
Wait, so are you arguing that we go back to the old days where we have all the credits at the beginning?
Yeah, like 20 minutes of credits. Did anybody see Vox Lux yet? that does an old school credit run. That is like, oh my God, why are we doing this? It's literally, we're gonna do that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah, I think the only movies that still do that nowadays are James Bond.
That was the only one I could come up with. Alfred Hitchcock back in the day, and then James Bond today. Those are the two that come up in my mind. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and there was a mid-credit sequence. Now, Sarah, do you know who that little worm that was visiting Dr. Savannah in prison is?
I don't, and I was hoping one of you could tell me. And I hoped it had to do with Black Adam, maybe? Question mark? No.
That's a glowworm from the 90s, 80s. It was a toy run.
The one
really
that my
popular.
sister took to bed every night
right.
and loved until its velour fell off. Yes.
right. Ran out of batteries, always looking for batteries. Yeah.
No. That is, so Captain Marvel, or Shazam, has three major villains. Dr. Savannah, who was in part of his first appearance and is always annoying. Black Adam, who is sort of an alter ego, and he's referenced here when the Wizard is talking about the first champion he lent his powers to, that committed genocide. And the third one is a little worm from the planet Venus named Mr. Mind.
So he's married?
No.
Oh.
No, Mr. Mind, he's a mind controlling worm. Who
the worst kind. The worst kind.
Yes. Who commands a army of monsters called the Monster Society of Evil. And remember that scene earlier where they opened one of the doors and there were 3 anthropomorphic crocodiles inside?
I do.
Those 3 guys are part of the Monster Society.
I'm in. Movie 2.
You give me any reptiles playing poker to kill time in between jobs, and I want to know more. I want to know more.
Everyone stop opening doors.
Well, I will say that then that's another soft setup for something else that they can come back to and do later on. Because I feel like the movie's got a few, and I guess, Ed, you could kind of like take us through some of those, because I'm sure you might have noticed more than I did. But there seems to be a lot of tiger references all around.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, Sara, are you familiar with Talkie Tawny?
You have to stop asking me this because the answer is always no.
Oh, okay.
Sara, are you familiar with the birds and the bees?
Do you like to watch gladiator movies?
Sara, do you like Huey Lewis in the news?
Okay, is that the American Psycho reference? Because okay,
that's where we stop.
So from the classic run of comics, Billy Batson has 2 allies, 2 friends, best buddies that he hangs out with that were not in this movie. One of them is Uncle Dudley, who's not really his uncle, but sort of hangs around. In the original version, he was like a failed magician, who liked to dress up in a Captain Marvel costume and pretend he had powers.
Creepy.
Okay, it just gets creepier the more you talk, but keep going.
Yeah. In the 90s,
it was from the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. In the 90s version, he was the school janitor who was looking out for Billy because, he was an orphan living on his own and let him hang out in his apartment.
The creep continues.
Okay, I'm trying to be respectful of the fact that this is your favorite comic, but there is an element of child grooming, is there not? Like,
this sounds like the Snyder version we didn't get.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Here's the other thing. The fact that Billy was living with a foster family is from the New 52 version from 2011 that was written by Jeff Johns. Before that, he was just a vagrant. He was an orphan who was on his own. He had a job as a radio reporter and was, trying to hide from truant officers and, had his own apartment. It was, pretty much an emancipated minor. But one of the people he used to shack up with was this random guy, Uncle Dudley, who would look out for him and acted as a guardian for him.
Yeah,
back in the days, man, it was a different era.
They needed to put a foster family in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Uncle Dudley is not in this movie. However, Darla, the little black girl who becomes who grows up to be the purple costume Shazam character. Her in the comics and here you could see she's credited her last name is Dudley, so she's Darla Dudley. Huh. So that's how they were able to get that loose connection in there. So he went from yeah. So he went from an old balding fat white guy to a small little black girl.
I actually am not sure who I would have preferred: creepy uncle, not an uncle, or adorable Moppet, because I gotta say my tolerance for adorable Moppets is real low, and I struggled with the Moppet level at times.
Yeah, because here's the thing: when they get an actual Moppet, they don't read dialogue that great sometimes. But hey, the kid was doing the best that kid could do.
She was cute
there was
as
a
bunnies,
moment. There was a moment where I was like, "This kid is new," and I was like,
so
"But don't judge."
Yeah,
and I was like, a couple of them. But I was like, don't judge. They're young. they got real lucky in this casting. but I kind of agree with you. I kind of had just the right amount of her. I was afraid they were going to kind of like go over the top with the kid, though. I really was. With the little one being the super cute one, a lot of punchlines and stuff, but just the right amount. They didn't overham it.
Yeah, well, we got to have a reason for Billy to stick around for this family, and because he is not going to make that girl cry. So Uncle Dudley was one character. The other character from the classic run of comics who's not there is Talkie Tawny, who is an anthropomorphic tiger who walks around in a with black slacks and a green sports jacket. And he's just one of Billy, Freddie, and Mary's best friends.
Wait! The tiger's in slacks and a jacket?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like Tony the Tiger from Kellogg's on his way to a business meeting.
Yes.
but like cool. Like he's got like his collar is open for like the first 5 buttons.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing. Smooth, like cool guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's actually a black bow tie.
I hate it now. Now I hate it.
Trying too hard. Going for a certain thing. But okay, so let's be thankful that this didn't end up in the movie yet.
It's weird because like Talkie Tawny is one of those. He's a lot of fun. He's a big all grown stuffed tiger who's walking around and who's beer buddies with Uncle Dudley.
So yeah, we really got to be thankful that they were like, yeah, we're not doing that yet.
Yeah, and it's
maybe in 3, maybe in Shazam 3.
Yeah, it's one of those comic book things that's like, okay, so this character's here, and we're not going to acknowledge that it's weird at all. He's just going to be here, and we're going to act like there's nothing strange about that. And it's one of those things, like, if you're reading the comics, you either buy into it or you don't. And, like, if you buy into it, then you get the tone of this book. But I feel like that's one of those things that, like, I really thought it would have been cool, but if they tried it in this movie, it could have broken the movie.
Yeah.
I'm doing a quick Google image search, and it's weird. It's weird.
And like it hurts the head almost to try and figure out how would they update this? Like who would be the voice? Like I implore you, dear listener, do a little quick Google search on that.
Yeah, please do. Please do. This tiger is bloodthirsty. I got to get out of this. Yikes. Okay. But I like the little tiger nods, though. That's nice to know why they were in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some stuffed tigers at the carnival, and I believe a school mascot, maybe?
Well, and Billy had a tiger patch sewed onto his backpack.
On his backpack.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Hey, while we're talking about the comics, could one of you explain to me why that wizard is not the worst wizard on Earth? Because he seemed like the worst wizard on Earth.
Give us a reason why. It seems like you might have a couple in your pocket.
I feel like he sat on his throne doing nothing and then occasionally summoned a child to touch his staff and then sent the child back without mind wiping the child and then chose a child without training the child and then turned to dust. I just feel like that was lazy wizarding.
Hey, he did a lot of interviews. There was a montage. Okay?
Wipe their memories. So what am I missing? What context am I missing that tell me that wasn't a lazy wizard?
Well, I actually think, I don't think he's lazy. I actually think he's working very hard. But I think, as Billy pointed out, he has really narrow standards.
He's real specific.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's the kind of thing where he and his other group of the Council of Wizards were tasked with protecting the world from the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly enemies of man. And all the other guys croaked and he's the only one left.
And am I correct in that, like, the only reason Billy kind of gets picked is because this is it now? I have to take you. Whoever you are, we're lucky we got you as opposed to some other kid.
Well, in the movie, yeah. In the movie, yeah, you're right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In the movie, it kind of, they set that up where like, and I think that might be like one of those things they did in the script to answer a question that we're not catching, which is probably something about like, well, if Billy's a bad kid in school, why would he pick him? And then maybe it's to satisfy that aspect. Because it felt like a writer thing where like, oh, we kind of have to do that because of some other kind of facet of the story.
Or like a line got cut that might have explained it. Because it felt like he was just the last interview he had scheduled before he dusted in the non-Thanos way. And so Billy got it, right? Like, I got it. Kid, I need this. You got to take this. Gone. So, right. I don't know.
Yeah, I would also say, because there is a line where he basically says like, "Hey, you can look forever. You're never gonna find someone who's pure of heart." And I think really, Billy's lived a hard life, and he's certainly hard edged. But there is a lot of goodness in his heart, and I think that's kind of why, Shazam's searching spell brought Billy to him.
Right. But I felt like the demons were the test, and then they were gone, so there was no test for him.
That's true.
Like, so it was kind of like implied, like, well, now that they're out, I've got to run with this kid. You know what I mean? And
definitely,
in some other movie, they might have made a bigger deal about that, like, or something. But it was just something I noticed. Just something I noticed.
So the wizard was spending all his energy just keeping the 7 sins at bay, and just could only expend a little bit in seeking out kids to listlessly be like, "Don't touch that ball. You touch the ball, get out of here, kid." Got it. Good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Shazam dies after giving the powers, which there's some versions of the comics where he sticks around, others where he doesn't. I kind of preferred when he stuck around, because he could give Billy a little bit of context. But that was also fun that, like, okay, I have these powers. He didn't really tell me what I'm supposed to do with them, so I'm just gonna.
He left here to go be in another Captain Marvel movie.
It's kind of like Greatest American Hero, where it's like, oh yeah, there's no instruction manual here, so let's just figure out what's going on, what I can do.
Yes, he did, Bill. Yes,
Thank you.
Did. I got that.
Thank you. Same actor in 2 movies, neither of which we ever thought were going to get made.
Well, actually 3, because wasn't he in the original Guardians?
Well, I just mean like these, because the whole Captain Marvel legal name thing, historically, it was always felt like, oh, that'll never happen. Like either movie, And here's a guy who manages to find a way into both.
Oh, you're right.
Blessed.
The actor.
Speaking of actors, can we just say that John Glover is always going to play your bad dad?
Yeah.
Because he was Lionel Luthor in Smallville, and so I just think I see him and I'm like, oh, there's a bad dad, and I'll be damned, bad dad. Yeah.
As soon as I saw him too, I'm like, oh, he'll be an asshole.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a jerk.
Yeah, and
that felt a little heavy-handed to me too, though. That whole kind of breakdown, like the way they were just really snapping on that kid, like it was like, hey, can I shut up? You're stupid. Like basically. It was kind of like that.
It's like they wanted him to be a supervillain. Like they were training him, bringing him up.
If he was like, I stopped the car, I want to run away, they would have thrown him out the window. Like that's how much they cared about that kid.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that was a little ham-fisted. Although I will say the grown-up version of his older brother, I was a little disappointed that wasn't a bigger name actor.
It did feel like a spot you could have put somebody.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that guy doesn't get a lot of screen time. He really only gets that one scene, right?
Matt Damon will do that. Ask Matt Damon. He does that kind of stuff all the time.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying A-list. I'm just saying they could have picked someone else who's known for being a big jerk.
Sure. Andy Richter would have been perfect.
Yes. Oh, Andy Richter would have been perfect. Yes.
I mean, we can't get Jesse Plemons for everything.
No. I think Jesse Plemons would have been too young for that. Because,
No, yeah. But he would have fucking knocked it out of the park, though. He would have put stubble on for that. Not even grown it, just spray it on with a glue and an air gun of some kind.
All right.
Not enough, not enough people killed. Serial killer Landry needs to have his, body count. So the brother didn't kill anybody. So Jesse Plemons isn't going to sign up. Sorry.
So now, there's somebody to talk about, right? So he gets tossed out the window, right?
Yes.
Which I thought, which is a thing where, if we're talking about how we mentioned earlier about the horrific aspects or the crazy stuff that does happen, like that is a moment where like, oh, did not see that coming.
Yeah. Yes.
In this movie, oh wait, is there gonna be more of that? Like that was pretty abrupt and like just real hard-edged sudden,
Yeah, I think that was scary, but I think this is the kind of thing where like this is why I feel like this feels more like an 80s kids movie where like you have real stakes and the danger is real. And it takes notice, but I think that also helps you appreciate the fun more, that we're not just goofing around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that was probably a thing, very much so, especially like when I was talking about the design of the creatures, that like, yeah, this is a very fun and light movie, but if we don't really sink home the stakes, the villainy, then it all might just feel a little too easy and by the numbers then. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they would have toned that stuff down just a little bit, it might have just felt like, well, I'm watching a Superman movie where like, it's just a matter of time before he takes all these people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thank you. Points for me.
Bill wins this round.
My bell wasn't working. But it's too late now. I'll use it later.
Okay. You want to talk about we talked about Freddy, we talked about Billy. Actually, we didn't really talk that much about Billy. His backstory. First off, that whole thing where his mom just leaves him at the carnival, that's new. And that was hard to watch.
I sat in the theater wondering how they were going to write their way out of that. Other than having her dead, what is the explanation for that isn't horrible? Dead is horrible too. And they went with the second most horrible thing after death, which was she did it. She didn't care that she did it, right?
Like, yeah, the second worst thing, indifference. Like just general indifference. Like, oh, I know. Oh, yeah, you're the kid, right? Like that's like how she reacted when he came by. Oh, Billy, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think I know you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and also if you have any cursory knowledge of the foster care system, this is
a little easy breezy.
yeah. This is not a real example of that. It is not an uplifting tale most of the time.
Right.
Are you saying that they could have found her maiden name and located her? Like, is that like logistically this doesn't happen? Or
yeah. Also for her to say like,
or the clean, happy, friendly foster kids who all work together also seem kind of dishonest.
That is an exception. I'm going to say if you read up on it, sure there are great people who take care of foster kids, but it's not always so rosy. But also for her to just leave him behind and figuring out, oh, he'll be better in foster care than he would be with me. Oh, that's not necessarily the case.
And the cops don't ever come by and like like hold her accountable in any way. Like, oh, did you know you left your kid at a carnival? Like, did you forget it? Like, it's not like the Cupid doll.
Well, he was so young in that scene that I can see that them not being able to get the necessary information out of him to find her.
Well, I mean, I feel like he got his first name and last name out, and it's not going to take a lot of digging to figure out how old is he. Where's he? To trace that back is not that complicated. Even 15 years ago when it probably happened.
And it wasn't like they were crossing state lines, so you had that like linkage blindness. I feel like it was all in state. This is maybe not the point of this movie.
Maybe.
But
they just really wanted to do something else. It felt like, why isn't he with his parents? Are they just dead? Well, everybody that's been done to death, literally, like in everything. Or like the one parent is alive and the other one's dead. And, we're going to have a big reunion. And how do we make that different? But it doesn't add anything. Billy doesn't get any time with it to really react to it in a way. Like there's no time spent really with him being like, oh, I can't believe this lady. Like you get maybe a line, but the movie's got no time for that really.
But I also think it closed an important door. It let him be with that family, his new family.
Right.
And I don't think he ever would have fully settled in if he had that prospect hanging out there. So it was necessary. And I was impressed that the movie went there. I mean, that did not pull any punches. Oh, thank God you're here. You found me after all this. Nope. Get off my doorstep, kid.
But for a kid who was super obsessed with finding his mom, he finally found her. Like, sure, it hits him like a ton of bricks, but he should have really been like devastated.
Yeah, moped for several months.
Yeah. And I think that might bring me to a little bit of the one bone that I have with it. Just that I felt like there was a difference between the stark contrast in Billy of when he's Billy and when he's Shazam. Like,
Bill, did you read my notes too? Because that's my bone to pick as well.
Yeah, and that's all I really got. But I noticed it at a certain point. At a certain point, like, Billy was just like, I realized he's kind of stoic and shit. And I get that if it's the idea that, well, like, when he's super jazzed, he's finally got something to be happy about when he's Shazam, and a reason to come out of his shell in a way. But it didn't feel like they were consciously making that point, though. It feels like it's there, but it's not like he at any point kind of says to the other kid, like, you're a real jerk when, you're Shazam, or whatever.
Why can't you be more like Shazam?
Yeah. Why are you cool when you're him, but when you're Billy, you're a dick? Like, you know what I mean? Or you have no personality. You're a bump on a log. Like, And
I felt like the Kid Freddy and Shazam Freddy were both at the same level. They were vibrating at the same frequency. Mm-hmm. And Billy and Shazam Billy were not. There was a disconnect. And I enjoyed both performances. I just wish that they had met I don't want them to meet in the middle because I don't want to change Shazam.
But regular great. Kid Billy, like
could
through the course of it, right through the course of it, could have started coming out of his shell a little bit. Just smile more. Really, like just as a freaking 15-year-old, like I don't care how down you were. I was a pretty down fucking 15-year-old, but I smiled a lot. Whether I was faking it or not, I was smiling. Damn it.
Yeah, I
just smile, Billy.
I could see that. I think that's definitely. Although I would say I don't feel like once he gets those powers, you don't see him as Billy a lot for much of the movie. And
that was fine.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't missing much.
Yeah, and I think that's why you might notice that difference. Is
sure.
If you
as starkly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's because it's more just like before and after is really stark. Which is probably because he's really excited and he's all manic and he doesn't know what the hell do I do now. I'm an adult and I have all these weird powers.
But it is a thing that like I could see and wouldn't mind them following up on in the sequel, where like it starts to get to his head a little bit, or like someone just kind of notices that like or it becomes the thing of like he's just super bored, like, you know what I mean, like as a kid, like 15, like when you're in school and you're just fucking super bored, like, you know what I mean, and it's like I could fuck, oh man, anything to get out of this building because you're in school, or just give me something to do, I'm fucking bored, which is I don't know. That's how I was anyway.
Yeah, and I think I think you kind of saw that a little bit with Freddy, kind of as his jealousy was cropping up over the course of the movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Freddy got to kind of be the voice of like, this is cool when he's not Shazam, because when he's Shazam, he's all like, look at this, I can fucking punch a wall, or whatever. And then during the downtime, Freddy gets to kind of be the voice of that a little bit. So it was there. There was excitement there. But Billy in those scenes just feels like, okay, Fred, yeah, like Fred's energy is pulling it along, so I don't have to lean into it too much. Like almost like he was being modest or something. Like, I know, it's cool, I know. Like, what?
So I enjoyed that the tests they did to uncover his superhero powers were definitely designed by 14-year-old boys, because what if a bullet to the face would have been fatal?
Yeah.
I don't understand how any boy ever makes it to adulthood, because I've seen the decisions that you all make before your brains are formed.
Look, I don't know how we did it either. Like, so
when you stuff your superhero friend into a barrel and set him on fire, like that's not a thing adults do. But yeah, 14-year-old boys, where you're like, well, this what'll happen here? Get the kerosene.
Well, we probably would have started small, like with a hand and gasoline or something like that, and then worked our way up. Because you wouldn't want to ruin the suit. Like, that's one thing. Like, the suit's pretty cool, but does that get damaged? Then they got a big naked guy running around. Not cool.
Or is it? Also, how did...
Different
Legendary
movie.
Man of Glare. How did his cape stay so white? Is that...
I thought... That crossed my mind, too. That crossed my mind, too, at one point. It's crispy all the time.
It's because it's magic. And... Also,
because it's magic. You're damn right. Because I stopped buying white stuff besides socks. 10 years ago. I literally bought a hoodie, and like that was the last white thing I've ever bought. No more white T-shirts, nothing. I just throw it all out. Oh, it's a gift? Oh, thanks. I'm never gonna wear it.
And also every time he transforms, it's a brand new costume. Like, just
really?
Yes.
Well, it should. I mean, that's the thing. If it's magic and we're going to kind of like reset every time, then he should be able to do that. Like, if it gets ripped or his hair gets burnt off, change, unchange. Okay, I'm back. Like that logic works for me. Like in the magic of it all, like, it's a reset, so if like someone were to break his arms, I don't know if they would go this far, but like when he changes back, would Billy's arm be broken? Like how did
Billy limped. We saw Billy limping at some point. Ooh, I took that to mean there was still some physical effect, but I could have misinterpreted.
You're right. In between, when the point where he starts changing back and forth kind of quick. I think I remember that too. I think even maybe on the rooftop when he does the big run and jump, which was so cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I do remember at least one storyline in the comics where Billy, the magic word stopped working, and Billy was stuck as Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel had broken his arm. So he wasn't able to change back in the arm, but when he transformed, the arm became better.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I mean, those are all fun things to talk about. I think Sara, the best, illustration of what you were talking about before is basically when after he gets shot and Billy goes, "Oh, try again," and he hands the gun back to the thief.
Yes. And then it's like 20 shots to the face.
I mean, what if you had a vulnerability in your eye? It bothered me as an adult lady.
But this is what stupid kids do. This is what idiot teenagers do.
And I'll just say this, like, come Monday, if no one's making a big stink about that, like in some super serious way, I'll be so happy that like logic still prevails. Like when it comes to comedy a little bit, it's like, okay, we can be silly for a moment with a very serious thing. Like, because it is funny as hell in the moment. And I'd hate to see anybody kind of make a big old like, well, what if some kid really tries to do it? Or some such nutty stance. But one of the funniest scenes in the movie for sure is how that whole goes down for sure. And all that testing stuff was really great beats. It was really great, yes. almost a montage, right?
Yeah. Definitely. All that, also the fact that Freddy's ideas to, create a YouTube channel. And I also like that they never did settle on a name for him.
Yeah, that is kind of like skirting the whole thing a little bit, but in a fun way. Like we know what we're doing. And we know that what we're doing.
Yeah. Now, The big giant twist at the end, as Savannah has the family cornered, and it looks like the seven deadly enemies are going to win. Billy is able to take Shazam's staff and share his powers with his brothers and sisters. Did you guys see that moment coming?
It crossed my mind at a certain point, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then when it happened, I was like, "Oh, right, yes." And then in that moment, I got a little verklempt, and it was mostly for you, Ed, because in my head I was like, "Oh, Ed must be loving this. Like this moment is what it's all about for him. Like the fact that they even did it, or tried, or that we're here, even if it sucks from here forward, that we got here. Like, you know what I mean?" And I was like, and I looked over and you didn't wipe your eye. And I was very let down by my own drama in my head.
But 2 seconds later, he stood up, ripped his shirt in half, swung it over his head. No?
And did the woo-hoo. Basically like we were at a strip club. It was very strange.
Not that kind of glitter.
No, I was just in shock. And yeah, that was the moment. That was the moment I wasn't sure we were going to get, and I was really hoping for. And yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing.
Well, I didn't know that the family Shazam was a thing. And so when it happened, I kind of realized, I mean, as it was happening, this is what's going to, and I too was verklempt. Probably also thinking about Ed. Honestly, we all were thinking about how is Ed doing during this.
No, but the moment got you, right? Because it got me.
But the moment got me. The moment was really good, and it was mostly for Freddy, but also, all of them. I wish we had. I didn't want this to be a 3-hour movie, but I wish we'd had a little more time with each of. I just said I don't like Moppets, but if we were going to do that, to have seen a little bit more of each of their vulnerabilities that are then overcome with this transformation would have been even more effective. And I didn't want more adorable cuteness, but that would have been even more powerful, I think, if we had seen I don't know any of their names, how this helped this kid. But I was genuinely happy for Freddy, and I was genuinely happy, and Ed and I talked about this off air, for Adam Brody, who plays adult Freddy. For some reason, I was happy for the actor Adam Brody, because it was so perfect and so him, and there he was, and I was just like, yes, Adam Brody! So that whole scene worked for me. Also, Asian kid, well done. You grow up nice. All right. Go on.
Yeah, Pedro and Eugene were the two characters that I got a little bit of short shrift. We didn't see as much of them. Just, Eugene is, the little Asian nerd who gets lightning powers, and then Pedro is the chubby Hispanic kid who all of a sudden gets
he gets a beard. He beards up.
Yeah, and he gets a beard, and he gets strong stamina powers, and of course he loved his guns. I agree with you. I thought Adam Brody was perfect casting, and it's another one kind of like Zachary Levi. I had no idea he was perfect for that part until I saw him there. I'm like, oh my god, that is perfect. That's who. No one else could have done that part. And Mary had a very interesting storyline, a very different storyline. What did you think about the fact that all of the kids were different ages in this?
Above Moppets. I had no real thoughts.
Yeah, it didn't. It felt, for movies anyway, it felt kind of typical of what they'll do, where you got the wide berth of character types, and that means racial backgrounds and ages and sex. You know what I mean? Like we're spreading it all out. You know what I mean? And which is good and to be expected. And that's what's good about that too. In a way, is I think by having a good age disparity, it really kind of makes the whole sibling family thing work a little better. Like if it was 5 kids and they were ballpark close in age, it would just seem like a group of kids a little bit. I think it's a subconscious kind of thing when there's a couple of little ones in there, and it's like, we all got to look out for each other kind of thing is implied more. So I think it reinforces, the idea of the unit thing. But it was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought it was interesting that they made Mary a high school senior. And that, she may age out of the group home soon, and she's, she gets into a college and she's nervous about whether or not she should go. And I thought that was an interesting way to add another dynamic to the story, and to flesh out her character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in the comic, I guess she's always older than Billy. Probably, I'm gonna say, as a guess, because that seems to be the way I remember it. But that, like, she's never really at that age in particular. But they didn't do a thing where, they let Billy kind of just do his thing. It wasn't like where she was like the overbearing, I'm the oldest one in the house. She was very much like, I've got my own shit to fucking kind of focus on, which felt realistic to me. Like, she wants out of that. You know what I mean? Part of her screaming to get out of that setup.
Yeah. Originally in the comics, Mary Bromfield, who, aka Mary Marvel, is actually Billy's older long lost sister.
But of course,
yes, who did end up with a foster family, the Bromfields, and lives a very separate life from Billy. And that's kind of an interesting dynamic in Jerry Ordway's Power of Shazam run, where, like, Mary's foster parents don't really trust Billy, and are very nervous about Mary hanging out with him and getting to know him.
For a split second, I thought it was actually the same actress. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, did they just let the same girl play the older version of herself? Because she would look so much like that. Like, it kind of made sense in that split second. Like, in that split second, it made sense. But I was like, oh, no, it's definitely a different actress who does look a lot like the young girl.
Yeah.
The other young girl. Because it doesn't seem like there's that big of an age difference. So maybe it's just, they happen to just both be very young looking. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, Shazam said, when you transform, it makes you the best version of yourself. And I think that's both, that's your top physical peak.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, even like if some actors grew older, they could still have the word and look completely different from the transformed version of themselves.
That is a problem for the series down the line, right? Like, what do you do when a kid who plays Billy is as tall as Zach Levi and looks nothing like him now?
or what if he stops growing?
Hey.
I think that's kind of what's happening to our buddy David Mazouz on Gotham.
Like, that's about it for this guy until 30 or so. Like, and it gets that second wave.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
But you make a good point, Bill. That's why they need to make the sequel now.
Oh, right. That's why. Okay, right. Yeah, it's a logic point, guys. It's just you have to.
It's the rules.
It's the rules.
If you want to keep those kids, yeah.
I'm sorry. Can we talk really quickly about the fact that the high school is Fawcett Central?
Yes,
that is a nod to Fawcett Comics, who is the original publisher of Captain Marvel, and also in
a plumbing supply company. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Bad joke. I should have stopped you.
Yeah. Originally in the original DC run, the Marvels lived in Fawcett City, and Jeff Johns changed that to Philadelphia in his reboot. But yeah, that's a nice nod to the past.
And can we also talk about the fact that when we had that Superman cameo, my husband leaned over and whispered, "In my mind, he's got a mustache."
That would have been the best part, is if he bent down to frame and the kids were like, "What's up with your face?
Your upper lip, it's horrible."
I think me and you, Ed, made that same joke in the car.
Yeah, you said the exact same thing to me in the car on the ride home.
Me and you,
Sorry,
Sarah.
I stole your joke, Bill.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It just proves to me that me and you, I know you can't see me, but I'm doing the two fingers to my eyes, like to you, like me and you, same wavelength here. We get it.
If I saw that, I would have been, "It's Mr. Mind, run!"
Right, yes.
Just get that cat.
Just hang out there. Just
that cat.
Sorry. Kept on stepping on you. Sorry, but
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad they didn't get Henry Cavill for that moment. I think it works better. I think then it would have risked upstaging the rest of the movie.
yeah. And
With
even
my
the fact that
memory of how much I dislike his movies, yes, agreed.
and the fact that he even does it is a great punch, but it kind of upstages him coming into the lunchroom. It's like, no ego, I guess, is what it comes down to. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. But I agree with you. Like, not showing his face works on a couple of different levels. It keeps the mythos in that world of, like they don't see Superman, like he's still kind of larger than life kind of thing. And but also too, you got to wonder, like, who wore the suit that day? Somebody had to walk on set in that suit.
Well, it lets me perpetuate the belief that that's Tyler Hoechlin and that he's Superman now. So my Superman is CW Superman.
Oh, yeah.
Shots fired.
Oh, wait, is this the movie report? Sorry.
No, I like it. No, they didn't show any actual pictures of Superman or Batman. So it doesn't have to be Cavill or Affleck in this universe.
Whoa! This is another universe.
Mm-hmm.
This is a branch.
We don't know. We don't know.
I will say I do have a problem with when it's a superhero world and there are superhero toys. Like, because there's a scene where there's like, Batman toys, but Batman's real here.
I like that.
It always bugs me. I'm like, how do they work out the deal? Is the company just stealing the image? Like, how come no one has a problem? And then in a real world like that, people should be like, I can't believe Tycho, because they're not defunct anymore. I'll just pull them out. That Tycho's making toys of a real world vigilante. This is not right. This is not good.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is. I mean, even when they do it on Flash, it always feels a little weird. Just because they never explain the licensing. Like,
yeah.
Who handles that? I know that's such like a weird petty thing, but I think it's something that if they did explain it, people would go, oh, you're right, that is weird. It would make it weird in every other movie.
I feel like in every version that this happens, Batman or whoever shows up and says, please send all the proceeds to the children's home, the Gotham Children's Home. Like they would set up a charity thing.
All right, you got me. Some like Lois Lane would corner one of them. And how do you feel about these companies using your image and your likeness to make all this money? And then he would like publicly put them on the spot. Right. And be like, well, the right thing for them to do would be, feel some guilt as a corporation.
Yeah.
If you really are people now. Just slip that in.
Politics, Bill.
No politics.
Yeah. But
save some kids.
But you're right, those were really nice toys, and like when they do it in Avengers, I think at the end of the Avengers you see kids running around with like Captain America and Hulk action figures, but those are clearly knockoffs. Those are
like, those Japanese imports that like don't have the right character name on the package.
Yeah. Or where it's like Frankenstein with different arms and legs. Yeah.
Right. But did you ever see like they become a meme almost where like the bad superhero packaging where it's Superman and Spider-Man in the same package, even though they're different companies, and it's like superior heroes, and and it's like bug person and cape guy, and it's like you guys just stole the molds from the factory down the street.
Yeah. It's like a Spider-Man head on a Superman body with a Batman cape. Yeah.
And besides, in the Marvel universe, Tony Stark's just like, I own the Avengers rights. It's all going through me, and that's how we make all this money, and that's how we keep this cool place running and operating.
Okay. All right. So I think we're past an hour now. I think we could be heading into the home stretch. Let's just do final thoughts and hopes for the future. Let's start with eeny, meeny, miny, Sara.
Final thoughts. I really liked this. This is up there with Wonder Woman as my two favorite DC Universe movies. I hope that the sequel doesn't suck. My concern is a lot of the joy, like you all pointed out, what were the tests and things, and what are my powers, and this is so cool, and can you believe this? And my concern is in movie 2 we don't have the same joy of discovery, and that might undercut the thing that I enjoyed so much in this movie. And so I hope the second movie can capture some of that childlike glee, and harness it in a different direction. And I just, God, please don't put any of those muddy filters on the camera. Don't have Shazam kill a guy by snapping his neck. My needs are simple. Keep it bright. That's all. I really love this. People should go see it. Take your kids, take your moms. Go see it.
All right, Bill.
Eeny, meeny, miny. Who's next?
I gotta echo a lot of what Sarah said. It's definitely, like I said earlier, it's definitely, right now it's what I think is the best DC movie just overall. I think that I hope the studio learns the right lesson in general. Just I feel like they would probably not muss this up too much, but like just in general, like what this tells them about these movies, like how to do them and how to, like, between this, Wonder Woman, and I guess Aquaman, it's about like really letting them be their own thing and not like really muck it up. Just find people who want to adapt it like as it is as much as they can, scrape away a couple of things like talking tigers, and focus on what works and make sure that works in screen. And so a thing that I didn't think they would do until 2 or 3, which is the whole family, like I didn't think we would see them here. That kind of, I was like, wow, that's a set of cojones on these guys to say, screw it, let's just do it right now. Something that somebody else would have saved, but in the end serves the property so well, because that's a big piece of it, that's the lesson learned here, to kind of like, anytime something new is coming along, even if it's outside the box, whatever people want to say about the Joker movie, at least it's about saying there's a creative idea here. Let's just let them shoot for the fucking moon and see what happens, instead of getting overly involved and mucking it up in the process, which is, they've kind of got a track record for that. Warner Brothers has got a weird track record with their superhero movies, but we're not here to get into that. This is a standout. This is, a 3 out of 4 or a 4 out of 5. It's just shy of perfect in a way where it's a really good time that it delivers what it promises you with a trailer. Fun action adventure stuff. And that's it. It's a high recommendation for me.
All right. So, for my final thoughts, I could not have been more pleased. I am shocked that they got it this right. And I'm glad that Jeff Johns finally pulled his weight and, put his foot down and said, no, this is how we're doing this. And that it stayed so faithful, and that the changes that they made were practical and did not harm anything from the source material. I thought they if we don't get anything else, I'm okay, because this movie to me was perfect. And if we don't get any more out of this world, or from these characters, I can live with that, because I can watch this movie over and over again. In terms of hopes for the future, I would like to see Dwayne Johnson as The Rock.
He's only executive producer here, so
yes. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock as Black Adam. We did have a hint of Black Adam during the movie, although it looks like Black Adam is going to have a solo movie. I think that's still on the docket. And if we do,
it is, can confirm.
Yeah, and if we do see Shazam again, it will probably be with Dr. Savannah returning with help from Mr. Mind. And in terms of places to explore, I think now that all of the kids have the powers, and if you're reading the ongoing Shazam series that is available on newsstands from DC, or not newsstands, but on comic book stands from DC Comics currently, you'll see that, with those powers, they have access to the Rock of Eternity. And maybe we'll see them opening some of those doors and finding out what worlds they lead to. That could be how Mr. Mind kind of slips back into the story. You know,
And honestly, if one of them has crocodiles playing poker, I'm there for it.
yes. Yeah. So yeah. So that's Shazam. It's here. I can't believe it. I want to go see it again right now, but I need to finish editing these episodes.
How many times have you seen it now?
I've seen it once. I'm probably
What?
I know. Last night I was
I'm so surprised.
I know. I was too. But I was a good boy and I did my homework last night.
Was that watching Doom Patrol?
Yes, it was.
Doom Patrol, so good. Even when they have a slow episode where it's like we're not doing storyline stuff, it's still so good.
There are no slow episodes. Cut his mic.
All right, so thank you for listening to the DC Movie Report. We will be returning next time for Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, and I'm interested to see what reaction Sarah and I have to that. Bill, we may have to have you back to be the positive end of this.
I mean, I'll do it. I'm just the voice. Look, at this point, I'm just the voice of reason on that. I'm just saying we have to see it. We need a full trailer. The teaser is just a teaser. It's about telling
Nobody asked for this movie. Nobody asked for this.
And that's fine. Nobody asked for the Hannibal TV series either.
Oh, that's okay. You got me on my Achilles heel because that was a good TV show.
I know. I was about to say
open mind.
I was about to say the Hannibal movie, and I realized that wouldn't have gotten me what I needed.
No,
you're right. It wouldn't.
Instantly, my brain was like, "No, TV show."
You read the room.
I read the room. I definitely did.
All right. Well, that's the DC Movie Report for this week. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Edward O'Hare TBD.
I'm at Sara Netzley, SARANETZLEY.
I'm at Wicked Theory.
Yes, and follow the show on Twitter at DCTV Report. Send along your emails to dctv@wickedtheory.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice and rate and review us. That helps more people find us. Check out our sister shows, The Wicked Theory Podcast and Preacher vs. Preacher. This has been a Wicked Theory Studios production. Executive producer, Bill Sweeney. Visit us at wickedtheory.com. Shazam, everybody!
Shazam!
Shazam!